Welcome back to Sonoma County Today. Today we're here talking about food and wine pairing here in Sonoma County with Darek Trowbridge of Old World Winery and Helena Gustavsson Giesea from Helena's Kitchen. Okay, Helena, sorry we had to break and you were just getting started. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Continue on. You came here from London, from Sweden to London to beautiful Sonoma County, and now you have a food. This is a beautiful presentation.
Thank you.
And what is that dish?
Well, what I chose to bring with me today is sesame ahi tuna, which I brought because it would be a very nice match with Darek's Chardonnay, mainly for the citrus balance between. And then the second little dish there is the sweets for today. It's a chewy mocha.
And that would go well with the red?
It will definitely go very well with the cab, and it does have cherries inside, so it will balance very well with Darek's cab, yes. Okay. We have been playing around a little bit with his wines and my food to try to find a good combination in wine pairing.
So tell me about the dinners that you're putting together. That seems to be, the Wine Institute was saying that is a new rising marketing tool where there's now pairings of food and wine and trying to make things personal so that you have a loyalty and a following.
Well, it's a perfect way for Darek to invite over his
customers.
Wine club, yes, exactly. Yeah. Mainly the wine club. And then for me to also meet up with people that like my food. And we have a fun time with that, doing different theme dinners, different times a year, once a month. And we are just about to plan one right now. And that's a lot of fun to do.
Now, where did you learn to be such an excellent chef?
Well, you haven't tried my food yet.
Well, it looks good.
Just joking.
Yeah.
I basically grew up in the kitchen with my mom. She is still an excellent cook in Sweden, and not professional, but she has always had a passion for cooking. She learned to cook everything from scratch, which was my fortunate way to learn from her.
Yes.
And after that, I've been continuing in the culinary field, mainly in the front of the house. But when I came to San Francisco and met my husband here, I decided to go into culinary school. So I went to the City College of in San Francisco for a 2-year degree, and was fortunate to work with one of my absolute favorite chefs for my internship, which is Hubert Keller. And came up to Sonoma County in 2004. And
now, where does Hubert Keller?
Restaurant-wise, Fleur de Lis in San Francisco. And then when I came up to Sonoma County, I had just been working around a lot of different restaurants.
Oh, good.
And done some things on my own.
Have you learned from the different restaurants in Sonoma County? Or?
I definitely have picked up as much as I can. Yes. I mean, up here we're so fortunate with the produce we have around us, and with the wine pairing with all the wineries in Sonoma, it's just a heaven for the culinary field.
So my question is this: is it always whites? You have fish. If you have fish, you have the whites. If you have, and then the reds, the beef. Is that a standard? I mean, I've never really understood all that.
I would say you can't have any wine maybe with any food, but you can always balance with the flavors. I tend to do it more that way than choosing whites for fish and reds for meat.
So you will intermix?
Yes,
it's
definitely.
Just the flavors. See, I love the sparkling wines and the dessert wines. That's my thing. And I guess you're supposed to have the dessert wines with dessert.
Well, you know, it's funny. I do winemaker dinners when I go out of state to Louisiana, and we had a late harvest style Zin that they did with just a cube of pork belly with a reduction sauce on it, and it was served as an entree, and it was absolutely fantastic.
And the same, you can also have a regular Cabernet to serve with a chocolate if the balance is right between the dessert and the wine. I tend to not make my desserts as sweet as maybe the general Public, yes.
Expects.
Yes.
So the citrus, what is in the tuna and the citrus?
It has soy, it has
Oh.
spices, and of course the citrus. It has also sesame. I actually have the recipe on my website if anyone is interested.
Well, it's interesting. You said you haven't tried my food, but how could you miss with tuna and citrus?
But also in there, I also put a little bit of jicama to make a crunch together with the green onion.
Texture's so important.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I'm much more for texture and flavor than the fancy look. But it's,
that's beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
It is beautiful. It's fancy, certainly fancy enough. So,
thank you.
and then the dessert, you see I'm focusing more on the food. I must be hungry.
Well, baking is a big part of my life. I grew up with a rolling pin in my hands. From the time I could walk, my mom always had me baking. So,
do you have a website?
I do.
And what is it?
It's helenaskitchen.com.
And a phone number?
It's on the website. It's a cell phone number.
helenaskitchen.com.
Yes.
So you pair the food and wine periodically.
Yeah, we meet together, and discuss what we want to do with the next dinner and which wines, and that can be like a 2-hour process.
Oh, yes.
But you mentioned the marketing. Really, to me, the wine and food pairings are like a grassroots movement of, wine is also a food beverage.
Yes.
And, in Italy, it's a condiment. It's just on the table. You know what I mean? And here, sometimes we forget it. Sometimes we have a different beverage. And to me, this is just about eating and drinking in a nice way and as local as possible when we can.
And how about you like to use local produce, you said?
Yes. I try
Sonoma
to stay
County.
as sustainable and local and organic as possible in all ways.
So you're going to the farmers markets locally when you...
Yes, and not always the farmers market, depending on my time constraint. But I definitely use the local produce that I can reach. There's a lot of good markets all over Sonoma County.
That carry local produce.
Yes, definitely.
So you definitely stay local, which is really exciting. And that's very helpful for the community.
And it makes it more fresh too, because you get it right off the ground.
Oh yeah, there it is.
Or the tree.
That's great. So what other wines do you make, Darek, besides your Cabernet Sauvignon and your Chardonnay?
In the tasting room right now, we have 8 varietals.
Oh, wow.
And or 8 different wines, and some of them are blends. But we do Chardonnay, like we have here, Sauvignon Blanc, Pinot Noir, Zinfandel.
Zinfandel's big.
It's
growing, isn't it?
Why is
growing. That? I'm just seeing that everywhere. People are talking about Zinfandel, and apparently it wasn't a good produce year for Zinfandel.
No, it was really a bad year for Zin, and really the market's hurt Zin as well. I mean, it's kind of fallen off. The big players, Cabernet and Chardonnay, they've maintained their status, but Zinfandel always seems to have its own niche crowd. But it's a very different wine.
It ebbs and flows, though.
Yeah, usually all of our varietals are French related. Zinfandel is the only one that I can think of at the moment that has that kind of popularity that isn't French related.
What do you mean not French related?
Well, it traces back to a grape in Croatia.
Oh, Zinfandel does.
Yeah, and